that's the pattern. Like if ETH goes down, Pulsechain goes down. And you can see it from this morning. ETH went down, Pulsechain down. Very simple, right? So that's kind of what we're all waiting for. If ETH goes straight back up, Pulsechain will probably go straight back up, and it will go above that red line. Like it'll touch it the first time, and the second time it's much more likely to break through. So just so you guys understand, if we're able to get back to that level and trade above it, it's very likely that this uptrend that was started for making this new low will actually continue. Pulsechain and ETH don't have to do the same thing, right? So you could potentially see ETH dump and Pulsechain go up. It's possible. That hasn't been the pattern, but it could happen. And so now you have a line where right? You pretty much know if it can break through that selling, right? People getting out at break even, if it could break through that, we're going to continue up. And if it can't get back up there, chances are we're going to retest the bottom, make a new bottom. Like who knows, right? Like Pulsechain hasn't been especially strong. Now there's one other red line that I want to kind of highlight. So there's the one that's like we just touched it, just overnight this morning, right? So that's that lower red line. But there's another one higher up, right? There's another one up at 4046, let's just say, right? 4046. I think the difference on that, so if we are able to break through that resistance, and again, you see this is resistance, not just like random TA nonsense. Like I'm showing you on volume. Like the reason this is resistance is because, it's not a moving average. Like it's not any of that stupid shit. Like it just so happens that this is everyone's on, in general, this is the average position. And that next red line is, I think, about 22% higher, right? So those would be pretty nice gains to get. And so how did I get that line? If you go to the previous slide, right? So again, we're only looking, the line I just explained to you, that's only been formed in the past 60 days, right? That's not taking into account, obviously, Pulsechain is older than 60 days old, right? So if you look further back, right, and I do another range from the period of trading, the 60-day period of trading before this last one, right, that's that point of control. And actually, it just so happens to coincide. So then I could also, you see how I only selected the last 60 days and did not include these 60 days, right? If you draw it, shit, did I hide it? 1 second. Let me just bring this back up so I could tell you. Yeah, okay. So what has happened on this chart, because it's been in this low range for so long, that red line, right, from the previous 60 days also is the red line is exactly the same as if you measure from May 2nd, right? So basically since May 2nd to now, that is the average price, right? So these are participants that have been holding this bottom much, much longer, right? They were buying in at higher prices, obviously, right? And so we have this resistance point here, which we're testing right now. Hopefully we break above it. But the next resistance that we're going to face is going to be the traders from May, right? Like all of their average positions, because they all bought higher, like much higher, right? 20% higher, right? So you can sort of expect that is going to be our next test. And we might trade this range for a little bit, depending on kind of what else happens. But realistically, as a target, you could use that upper red line. And we can bounce between the two, like who knows, but you could be assured that it's going to test off of that upper line, like just like it sold down today. Like I'm showing you like an example that actually happened today. That's also going to happen again once we get to that 4046 price. And yeah, like good to know, right? And then again, it'll either just smash right through it, right? That means that people are super bullish, market's good, people are dumping money into Pulsechain. So you obviously wait, right? Like you don't just like place a limit order there because it could go right through it. But set an alert that's like right below that level, and watch what it does. If it smashes through, great. We'll go even higher. We'll probably go to like 5555, or I don't know, somewhere up in the fives. And yeah, and if it doesn't, you'll sort of know that that would potentially be an opportunity. I don't want to tell anybody to trade, obviously, but that's what I've been looking at. So I don't know if anyone is still in the room. All right, we still got like 20 people. We only have 10 non-listeners. But if anybody wants to hop up, if you have a question, I'm happy to field whatever. If not, like that was a pretty productive day. Like I said, I'll give you guys a quick update on the PLS ETH ratio. So this is something that you should all also be keeping an eye on. You can do it on TradingView. TradingView, well, you know what? Technically, let's see. Yeah. You know, I was going to say that you could technically look at the WRAP-D PLS pair on Pulsechain to get this ratio, and you can, but it would be easier if you want to look on Pulsechain at the with PLS pair, it would be easier if you like inverted the chart, right? Because right now it's telling you like how much PLS you can get for ETH. Like I would just want to look at it the other way. I would want to look at PLS per ETH. I think it's just easier. So you see that it's going up. Up is bad, right? That means that each ETH is worth more Pulse, which means Pulse is weak against ETH too. But I would just suggest you guys go on TradingView, and now you can find the PLS die. You can go to PLS die on TradingView. It's the Pulsex pool, and then in the upper right you can switch your base currency. So instead of US dollar, you're going to choose ETH, and I'm zoomed all the way out to like a weekly basically. And what you're going to see when you do that is that we've been like the ratio of the strength of PLS to ETH has not really changed in about 10 weeks. It lost about 80% of its strength against ETH during that sell-off. And what I'm looking at, so I drew a support line, kind of just it's slightly angled up, but it's almost flat, right? So if you want to do this for yourself, if you look at my timeline, you'll see a sample of this chart. I've shown it so many times, but I can pin it, I guess. And so what I've been telling people is that these weekly closes are going to matter a lot, right? So wherever we are, if PLS can't gain relative strength to ETH and start to like each pulse becomes stronger against ETH, there's a chance that it will sell down another level. And so the amount of ETH you can get per pulse is going to be like half, right? We don't want that. Like it's already down, it's already down 80%, right? So if you could get one ETH before, like at the top for a certain amount of pulse, that same amount of pulse will get you 0.2 ETH. Like that's not good. And if it goes down again, right, that same amount will only get you 0.1 ETH. Like not great, right? So that's what we want to avoid. And this is why I've been telling people, like, this is the time. Like we have a very long consolidation on support, right? Like the ratio has fluctuated a little bit, but you see it's like a very tight range. There was signs of life, like that last pump we had, like it was starting to, like it did make a higher high ratio wise from that range, by the way, not all time, just like a higher high in that consolidation range. And that's going to mean everything for this chain. Like I hope everyone understands, like that's how dire this situation is. This week we are slightly up where we started. It's like the slightest, tiniest bit it's gaining strength against ETH. Obviously this is how these things always start. It always looks like nothing is happening until something happens. But at the end of this week, if you see that we're close, if this ratio gets worse and it's closing below like where it's consolidated, I would say that you're even if ETH is going down, you're still better off holding ETH because it's going to be stronger. You're still, like, when it stops, you're just going to be able to get more pulse with it. Yeah, but if Pulsechain is to survive and for people to have a reason to bring ETH and other coin to Pulsechain, you have to show that it's doing better than ETH. If whatever you're holding is not beating ETH, you should just hold ETH, right? And if ETH is not beating Bitcoin, you should probably just hold Bitcoin. And obviously, if you're super risk averse, Bitcoin's going down against the dollar, right? So those are kind of the relationships you want to look at. Are we doing better than ETH? Is ETH better than Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin better than dollar? And kind of plan accordingly, because after whatever sell-off happens, if you're in the right asset, you're just going to get more of what you want, right? So if you were to just hold ETH and you like Pulse, right? You want to come back to Pulse eventually, and you don't lose your buying power just holding Pulse, you're just going to be able to get more Pulse by holding ETH. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, if anybody wants to come up, nobody. But yeah, that's where we're at. It'd be great if we could all stop fighting and doing stupid shit. Like, and I get it. You know what? Like after that conversation, I don't know if everyone heard the discussion with Maddie. I don't think Maddie's like a bad person, right? I think Maddie is trying to do stuff. And this is my biggest problem with a lot of influencers and people who are just trying to make content for the internet. It has like an impact. You know, you also have to, it's not like you should not try things just because you're so afraid of saying the wrong thing. Like, it's okay to be wrong. But I think it's a whole nother thing to very like intentionally not, yeah, in this case it's kind of like misleading. You know, it's to paint one picture and reality is totally different, and you're kind of like using your cloud or your name that you built up through Hex or through anything. I mean, everyone does this, like through Solana, through anything, you know, to get people to make decisions that are not very good for them. You know, they're not very good decisions. And you know, like obviously a couple of things that came up with that. I'm not going to rehash all of it, but you know, the one thing that kind of rings in my mind, I'll just like probably close on this. I'll play out a song or I'll put on some music afterwards. You guys can you know, get back to doing other shit. You know, but at one point, like I asked Maddie, why wouldn't you just burn the tokens, right? Like if you truly intend to have this like pegging to 20 and all of this, like you can't peg all of the supply to 20. That's like $1 trillion. Like you couldn't do it, or like, you know, several billions of dollars. Not possible. Why don't you just like distribute out the tokens through LP? Like instead of doing an airdrop, usually people do a claim or an airdrop, but okay, like you decided to do it through LP, and a certain amount of tokens are now owned by the community. You want to offer $20 for each one. Why don't you just burn the rest of everything? So I hope that makes sense to everyone. Or you could lock them, but ideally you just want to take them out of existence so that people who bought it would be like more confident that what you're saying is possible, right? Because it's much easier to peg you know, like 10,000, 20,000 tokens that went out into circulation as opposed to 369 million of them. So, you know, and the answer was, you know, there could be, I'm not going to burn them. They're not going to be burnt because in the future, there could be some other fun things that we could do with the tokens. Like immediately to everyone, you should not think, oh, that's exciting, right? Because you use the word fun, and fun means like exciting and beneficial, entertaining or something, right? Like fun means good. But you should immediately ask, like, fun for who? Fun for you? Fun for us? What kind of fun? How long will the fun last? How likely will there be any fun? Like, yeah, I'm being silly, but like for real, like, what does that mean? I know it's like a nice thing to say and to hope for and to offer, but what is fun? Like immediately in your mind, right? So I think that's the part of like that logical process that being an influencer and having a lot of people familiar with you bypasses. You know, you might not ask that question. You might just say, well, I think Maddie's a fun guy, and whatever fun he has planned for us, I want to be a part of that. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. It could work. I mean, it could, but no, like fun for you. If you are in crypto, you can like NFTs and you can have fun with your friends in crypto. I'm not saying that, but the real fun for you, not other people who are taking your money or asking you to send them money, is for your value to go up. That's fun. Fun is like having $100 and then having $1 million. That's fun. That's the only fun. There's no other fun. You can enjoy NFTs, and I understand why you would say that is fun as well. But was it fun to spend like $6 million on an NFT because you were having fun with your friends, and now the thing is worth like 10K? Was that fun for anybody? Maybe you had fun while it was still worth 6 million. Not fun now. Not even a little bit fun. It's funny, not fun. Anyway, I'm starting to get sarcastic. We got one person. We got a brave soul, Crypto MVS. Damn, I can't believe there's one person that wants to come up and chat. Go ahead. Or he's still connecting. He's like in Zimbabwe. What's going on here? Can you speak or no? No, maybe that was a mistake. He didn't mean to come up. Yeah, anyway, just make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves first out here, right? Especially when markets are down. When markets are up, some things change, right? People become more benevolent. There's more cool things that you can take advantage of, right? There's just more money out there. People are not so tight, right? But when prices are down and they've been down for a while, like be realistic, right? Be realistic. It's just the time to have fun in crypto. It will come, but it's a lot more fun when you have like more money than less money. Like, I mean, just I hope you believe that as well. It's really not fun to give away your money to someone else so that when the bull market does come back, they just make all the money and then they decide what to give back to you. Like, that sucks. Like, why don't you just hold on to it? You need it. And yeah, just it's my little PSA. But are you up here, MVS? Yo.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, dude? You got something you want to bring up?
Not yet. No, you can keep going.
I was gonna wrap in a bit, but yeah, I was just saying if there's any questions. I just went on for I don't know how many hours. Been up for like 4 or 5 hours at this point. People are probably tired of hearing me. My voice
I
sucks.
see.
What's that?
No, I'm just getting up, so I'm still trying to, yeah,
Yeah,
get my mind together.
yeah, no worries, man. Listen, I'm gonna go ahead and if no one, so the stuff we talked about today, obviously, I laid out the situation with Bitcoin and having the ETFs. We talked about liquidity a lot. If you are holding large liquidity positions, I sort of laid out the case for you don't want to be exit liquidity. Like when you're providing liquidity, you are also providing exit liquidity, but on the way up, you're also providing like entry liquidity. And so you don't really want to be providing unless you're like a big whale and you have plenty of other funds that you can use to buy assets. Like, but if pretty much like a lot of people have been using liquidity to kind of like make a few percent here and there while the prices aren't doing so good, and that's perfectly good strategy. So when the price is sideways, adding to liquidity is great. It protects the price. It doesn't go as low as it would have, and you're making some fees. When the price starts to move, whether that be up or down, you don't actually want to be in liquidity, right? So if the market wants to buy, you should get out of their way. The more liquidity there is, the harder it becomes to move the price up, right? So like 100K would have moved the price like this much, but if there's a lot of liquidity, it'll move it up less, right? So if you see that we are kind of breaking up or breaking above, like I showed you that like one level, right, that we tested off of today, and the level that we have up higher and all this stuff. You don't want to be in a position where you end up losing because essentially in LP you're selling your tokens through a range. Right. So if we are at a bottom, you want to be 100% in Pulse. Right. I'm just using it as an example. It's like whatever coin you want to be in. It could be anything. But obviously, by not adding LP, you're not going to be half and half unless you're doing like PLS and PLSX and stuff like that. Like you don't want to be in stable pairs because by the time you're just going to be selling all the way up through the range, and you're going to have less coins to go up later. And you're starting out with half as many coins anyway. So just so you guys are aware, if you have sort of dug into this liquidity thing, be mindful of that. Like you want to take as much, like clearly Pulsechain is not going to give you that many opportunities. Either it's going down for a long time or it's going up for a long time. That's just how it's been, right? There have been kind of like not that many periods where it's just really kind of flat or where it's changed direction. I mean, right? Like when it went up for a while. When it went down, it's been going down forever. So be careful with your liquidity positions, and you're helping. By not providing liquidity, you are making way more holding double the amount of pulse than you are by collecting fees up through a pump, and you're just going to end up with no pulse. And so if it goes like a lot higher, you don't even benefit from that, which sucks because you're here now and you should get the best position possible to make the most money you can. And then we talked a little bit about, yeah, kind of laid out the case for why I think before Bitcoin goes to 100K, it'll probably wipe down the chart to like 25 or so, about 15 on ETH. And this is all approximate. It could go lower, it could stop above it. It just all depends on what conditions are. So yeah, just like be safe out there, be careful, especially if you're on leverage. The one shot that Pulsechain has of doing something like exceptional, like not just like 10-20% here and there, but I mean like 100 200, like x's, actual x's, is if Pulsechain, you will see this, right? We've been arguing about like, well, who's going to bring the money, so I'm not going to go through that whole thing again. But if you see Pulse getting stronger against ETH, that is the condition. If Pulse is losing strength to ETH, there's no reason to come to Pulse Chain. Sorry, like that's just the end of the story. If that does happen, and you see the rest of the market, like let's say like ETH holders or whoever, they want to still be in crypto, but they don't want to be losing value as ETH and Pulse Chain to clean up the liquidity areas below. There is a chance. I don't know how big, how small. There just is a chance that some speculators will try to buy into coins that are at like very low prices, right? And you kind of see this. That's why when sell-offs happen, like the market's going down, you'll see there's just these few coins for like no reason. They just like do crazy numbers, because they were and they were probably trash coins to begin with, right? Like things that were at all-time lows, things nobody wanted. But if your main assets are falling, Sol's falling, ETH's falling, like all this shit is falling, speculators will just choose a few of these assets to pump. And because everyone wants to see, like everyone's looking around for gains anywhere they can get them, that causes sort of this feedback where people just pile into a certain token and it's a piece of shit and it just goes up a lot, right? Is that could be Pulsechain, right? I hate to call it a piece of shit, but if you look at the performance of it compared to everything else, it falls into that category of incredibly oversold. I mean, just all the conditions are sort of right for that to happen. It would be much worse if Pulse was like topping now, right? So you had an expensive Pulse and an expensive ETH. I would say the likelihood of that is even worse, like much lower. That would happen, right? So this is sort of that shot, and I think we'll know within like a week or two if that begins to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen all at once and the price is going up 500% in a week, nothing like that. I'm just saying that we will sort of know based off of that ratio which direction it's likely to go, and then you kind of have to take you have to make a decision. And if it does go up like big, you'd rather have more coins than be in liquidity adding earning fees. That's all I want to say about that.
I mean, my interpretation is the big picture of Pulsechain and bonded liquidity and tying everything together. Basically, rising tide raises all ships, more or less. As you see how heavy like Pulse is weighted, when Pulse goes down, the whole ecosystem tends to go down as well. There's some sub ecosystems that might fare better than others, but they may have their own sub ecosystem and different pairings as well. So that's my general thought on it. I always find all of his findings intriguing, informative. Some things come to fruition. So a lot of things take time to develop and for them to materialize. It's like there's breadcrumbs and you're a detective and you're literally searching, trying to turn up every rock. It's hours and hours of research that go into this, trying to find what is the meaning, because nobody it's like a game of Clue. Like nobody wants to tell you up front what the master plan is, but sometimes you'll see little indications when you're onto something. The benevolent actor of XYZ may in their own way give you a nod that, hey, you're onto something. I mean, I've been listening down to the Tropa and James and Maria for a hot minute, and I mean, I don't know. It makes sense to me. Did it make sense initially? Hell no. It took repetition. I had to sit there and listen to all these things over and over, and eventually the light starts to turn on and get a little brighter and a little brighter, and it starts to make some sense. So this is not anything that one person is going to just get right out of one space or anything. This is like an evolution, a series, if you will, of content, and as others join in and contribute to it as well, it starts to make sense. But
conclusion of what he's been talking about really got me. And of course, I don't completely understand the mechanics, but I understand at the very least, there's a lot of moving parts that people are intentionally trying to be discreet about that has real world application when it comes to blockchain. And Pulsechain and Hex and are at the center of it basically. And because we've created a load project that is also paired with a liquidity web with all of those projects, that's how it correlates with load. It's the lowest barrier to entry as far as the project, and if the other ones basically go up, it'll take it up with them. That's my understanding.
yes, bang bang, you did good. You get an A+, man.
Woohoo! Let's
For
go.
just let's go. So if this is recorded, that's great. So man, you could almost repeat that like 2 more times just for the kids at home to soak
Yeah.
in and absorb. Like I like to apply the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I think that was the most just down and dirty explanation of it all, big picture wise, because you have the bots, you have the automated market makers, arbitrage bots, etc. They're taking it, they're grabbing from one and robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're moving shit around, balancing stuff, making money. You got other people that have deployed their own bots just to, make money, period. And they have sniffers out there that anytime a new contract is deployed, they will, automatically just buy $10 worth. But since it was the first one there as a contract deployed, it's getting like a stupid amount of allocation. So the bots are a real thing. What people in projects, founders have to contend with when launching new tokens, etc. Your holder token list is, important on a new project as well. But anyway, it's not going to go deep, but
Yeah.
little moving parts.
Totally. And then, of course, you do a layer of just doing analogies with the Matrix and how these bots are like the bots in, I forget what they're called in the Matrix. It's like a form of energy. And I mean, you start talking about all this crazy stuff, then you get what Rig's basically spewing is a lot of alpha, but it's also mixed in with a bunch of really cool analogies. So with Load, I think we're going to be able to tell that story in a fun, creative, animated way once we get there.
Yes, most definitely. And like liquidity side as well. My token Vets is also bonded with SolidX and Access. So like it helps, the easiest way to get into my token is utilizing one of those two tokens, so that leads you down the road of an example of utilizing the PHUX protocol, sub ecosystems. We're not enemies. We're all in it together. It's gonna work out. We're just gotta wait our turn collectively. We've been very patient. It's gonna happen. The ETFs are coming out. Supposedly now the 24th. Take that lightly, loosely, but that's a positive sign as far as that goes. And then the money's going to trickle. I mean, we're a fork of Ethereum. Come on, what's not to like about that aspect of it? I'm happy and thank God we have Pulsechain, which is a true DeFi, decentralized finance. And it's a good thing that it's not as easy for everybody to jump in on, because look at the institutionals raping and pillaging all the other common ones like BTC and now Ethereum soon. So it's probably a good thing that we are true DeFi. Amsterdam met with Maria/James. What a beautiful mind for a developer. Definitely after meeting him in person and everything and listening to his presentation, more bullish than ever. He has a beautiful mind. It's not a simple one. It's complex. It's very well thought out, pre-planned, and he ultimately was just waiting for the right ecosystem to create this community that he's building. And initially all this activity. SFI, we're minting and this and that. Initially, nobody was sure what the hell it was or who's behind it. And then, conversations started to come about through the Maria handle profile, and things have morphed that we're getting to know. And, it's a get to know you type of thing. But now, for the most part, we know that this person is a benevolent actor, as it so far. It is a tropa, a big experiment. I think so, yes. But man, if it really works out, holy shit, you may want to have a little piece of something of any part of that ecosystem, just in case. I really love Wrap BTC. That I think that's going to be bullish. That's going to reach parity. It's just a matter of when. So I don't know, man. Penny for everybody's thoughts.
I'd like to jump in. Just listen to everybody talk. There's 3 points that I wrote down. I just wanted to make sure I got them out there. And that is, I think hex needs the peg. I think that's what the system is waiting for, is a hex pegging. Seems to make sense. That I don't know why it makes sense, but if you were to take a guess, like what is the next step in Pulse Chain, the hex peg is probably a pretty good guess on what needs to come first before the next step happens. As far as rigs and the chemical compounds and all these, like the craziness, in quotes, craziness he's talking about, I think what he sees is LPs. I think he's fine. Like I saw someone in another group say, like you're seeing this thing out here, and now you're seeing it everywhere. And I think him reading about this stuff, I think it's triggering. I think it's like I think it's more similar than not, right? Like I think the things that he's talking about, chemical compounds. It's just LPs put together. If you want to make a more complex compound, you could pair LPs with LPs, or you can put more than 2 tokens in an LP. And so, just to emphasize on that, I think that's where some of what Riggs is talking about comes from. I think he's seeing chemical compounds as LPs. And if you replace those chemicals that he's talking about with LPs or just tokens, maybe it starts, maybe you could see what he's seeing. And then I also think that, like, I see these ecosystems out there, and it's pretty cool. You see Atropa with its own ecosystem, and then you see Skull with its own ecosystem, and then you see Solid X and Access and that index. You see them doing their thing, and I think it's a good thing to, like, even though liquidity is all bonded, and that's a good thing. I think it's also good to have that difference in, to have a difference in to have different ecosystems and not everything be all connected through liquidity, all through, like, it can all be connected all through liquidity, but just not equally. Like, there should be a north end, a south, a east, and a west end there should be many ends to the ecosystem, so that when one thrives, it goes up, and the other ones, they go down, and then they go back and forth, not so that they all go up and all go down at the same time. I think, and maybe there would probably be a time for them all to do that. But I do, just like a good balance of between everything tied together between liquidity and also being able to be separate from other liquidity.
Yeah, definitely.